Serious tattoo artists, what was your worst mistake and how did the client react?
My time has come. I had some really beep experiences in this shop, but this one was up there. Apologies for the very long story, this was during my apprenticeship. I had been tattooing on human skin for no more than 2 weeks and was very inexperienced. My mentor wanted me to participate in a $13 Friday the 13th flash special coming up that week. I drew up a flash sheet full of designs that I was confident I could pull off with my limited experience. I spent the entire day beforehand prepping my station, gathering supplies, printing stencils and consent forms, cleaning the entire shop, etc. I decided to sleep on the shop floor that night so that in the morning I could buy the whole shop some fancy donuts from a nearby cafe and get back in time for the event. Right before it started, my mentor, who was also the shop owner, changed up the rules of the special. He announced on Instagram that people could bring in whatever small design they wanted to get done for $13. I was suddenly being asked to draw and tattoo designs that I was fully unprepared to take on. The shop had one computer with Photoshop that we all had to take turns on to create designs, so our turnaround time slowed to a crawl. And I already tattooed slow anyway since I was so green. The shop was overflowing with people and we had a waitlist with literally over 100 names. Over the course of the day I only managed to tattoo 6 or 7 people. I ended up working for 14 hours straight. Didn't even have time to eat any of the donuts. Just as we were about to close up shop at 2 a.m., one girl walks in and asks if she can still get in on the special. She wants a butterfly. My mentor tells me to take care of it. I'm exhausted, but hey, you don't tell your mentor no. So I print the stencil and I get started in. My hands just stopped functioning. My wrists were so sore and cramped from working all day that I couldn't control the tattoo machine anymore. It was the strangest, most horrible feeling. I watched in horror as, no matter how hard I tried to tame my gnarled hands, I just completely botched this girl's tattoo. Lines were all squiggly and off. I even cut into her arm in some places. Lots of bleeding. I felt absolutely horrible. It looked horrendous. I called another artist over to finish the tattoo for me and told the client that her tattoo was on the house. She left without saying much. We closed up shop after she left and I told the other artists to go on home while I stayed behind and cleaned up. I cried as I cleaned. I made only enough money that day to cover the price of the stupid donuts. By the time I was done cleaning it was 3:30 a.m. and I still had to ride my bike a few miles home. I was so tired that I decided to spend a second night sleeping on the shop floor. I woke up early the next morning to ride home. And the rear wheel had been stolen off of my bike. I had to carry it 2 miles to the nearest bike shop and spend $90 on a new wheel, tire, and cassette. I thought that was the end of that nightmare until a week later I'm at home and get a call from my mentor. He's screaming through the phone. Apparently the butterfly girl went and left a 1-star review of the shop on Google after her experience with me. He said I had disgraced the name of his shop and the other artists that worked there. I had to come in the next day and apologize to each of them personally for damaging their reputations. I then had to contact the client and apologize once again to her and offer her another free tattoo. She never responded. The whole experience was humiliating. I've been told by other tattoo artists since that my mentor is mostly the one to blame for this whole situation, and that I'd been set up to fail. But I still feel so awful about what I did to that poor girl's arm. I should have known I was just too exhausted to keep working. I should have called that other artist over much sooner to fix my work before I made it worse. I should have done a lot of things differently. But at least I learned from it, I guess. Anyway, I hate tattooing butterflies now. TL, doctor, beep up a tattoo on a girl due to exhaustion after a 14-hour day early in my apprenticeship. Girl left a bad review on Google and my mentor made me apologize to the whole shop for it. Edit, oh my god, I am absolutely blown away by the response this post has gotten. Thank you all so much for your support and kind words. For those wondering, I'm no longer at that shop. Yay. I'm now working at a private studio with a good friend and it's been lovely. I don't work in a small town per se, but I work in a pretty well-connected town, so I won't reveal my location or my IG since it would probably be easy to figure out just who my mentor is. But I appreciate everyone asking. For all of the completely unreasonable beep my mentor out me through, he also taught me so much. He was a great teacher and he really did put a lot of time, care, and effort into my apprenticeship. Even though we're no longer in contact, I still really love and respect the guy. I'm forever grateful for my experience at that shop and my apprenticeship under such a talented, highly experienced artist, but I'm also happy to have moved on.
I was a receptionist at a tattoo shop. One of the artists misspelled neighborhood on this guy's neck. He spelled it neighborhood, leaving out the first H. Neighborhood was the guy's nickname. It was a pretty large, elaborate tattoo, so there was no fixing it. I don't think I have ever cringed so hard in my life. The guy was surprisingly really cool about it. He did see the drawing and approved it before it was tattooed on. He ended up making the artist tattoo a H on his palm, so if anyone gave him beep about the misspelling, he could smack that person with the missing H.
I had a client email me asking for a 4-letter acronym. I don't do freehand script, so I put the letters into a font generator and sent him back some options. He picked the one he liked best and we set an appointment date. On the day of his session, I showed him the acronym again and we chose a size. I placed the stencil and he approved it and I got started. Midway through the tattoo I asked him what the letters stood for and he told me. My heart stopped. The letters were in the wrong order. The middle two were swapped. I ran to the shop computer to check my email and sure enough, in his original email he'd sent me, they'd been correct. I had typed them into the font generator wrong. But to be fair, he had seen them several times since then and didn't notice my mistake. I spent the rest of the session covering him up with another design he'd had as a backup tattoo idea and I didn't charge him. But it was a good learning experience for me to always ask what initials, acronyms stand for ahead of time to make sure I get them in the right order. Edit. Thank you for all the awards and upvotes, it makes me feel slightly less inclined to puke with embarrassment every time I think about that day. Also, I originally wrote initials, but I think what I meant was acronym, so I went through and corrected my comment and also clarified which letters I mixed up.
Once had a client call the shop who was crying hysterically because, according to her, I had done her tattoo backwards. It took a few minutes to get her to calm down to the point where we realized she was looking at it in the mirror. She apologized and hung up. Edit. Thanks for the upvotes and awards. You're all too kind. Second edit. The tattoo was on her back. When I placed the stencil, and finished the tattoo, the client was using 2 mirrors. A handheld one, and the wall-mounted one. Using 2 mirrors, it looked correct, which it was. When she looked in just one mirror at home, it appeared backwards, the way a mirror works.
I've never really made any big mistakes that garnered a reaction, but one of my clients has a tattoo from another artist in a local studio that says Gradad instead of Grandad. The studio fired the artist and wouldn't take any responsibility for what had happened.
Just posted this in the other thread, but here it is again, I'll bite. I misspelled forward. It was a line of script on the side of a foot and a last-minute addition to a couple other tattoos they were getting. I quickly knocked it together on Photoshop and nothing looked out of place. The client approved, so I made the stencil. The real beep is that I didn't ask them to spell check. I always ask them to spell check, except for this one time. The next day they came back and pointed out that forward isn't spelled forward. I do a lot of reading and I guess it didn't look wrong because I'm used to seeing it as the forward of a book. I apologized profusely, feeling like a total ass, and told them to pick at the scab of the extra E and the W while they were healing to make it fade and come back in 2 weeks. Fixing the O was easy and I was able to turn the E and W into a wide loopy W and add a bit of extra loops and flourish to other letters so that it looked totally fine in the end, albeit a bit stylized. She was happy in the end and still comes to get work from me. 10 years of tattooing and that one still haunts me. There have been other mistakes, but they're mostly the client's fault. Things like dads getting their children's birthdays wrong happens a lot actually. Dude, I don't know what month your kid was born, call your wife. Also, bonus story, the guy who spells his kid's name wrong. I had him write their name down. Literally, he wrote it down. Bentley, I drew up a fun custom script, he loved it. Put the stencil on him and had him check it out. I even told him to make sure everything was right, all good. Did the lining and had him check it out while we took a break, loved it. Finished the shading and drop shadow etc, all finished. He's checking it out in the mirror, loves it, until I hear, what about the E? What E? I reply in dismay. The E. Bentley has an E. So I show him what he had written down, and he groans, "Oh man, I always beep that up. My wife is going to kill me." So I sit down with the original drawing and manage to turn part of the L and the Y into an E, add another couple lines to reform the L and Y, and boom, Bentley. It worked out in the end and I felt like an absolute wizard. But beep dude, it's your kid's name and you didn't notice the spelling was wrong the 10 times you checked it out during the process? What a job. Made an imager so you all could see.
Worked as a piercer in a shop a decade ago. A guy came in and wanted Murphy's Law. The artist free-handed a design on him. He greenlit it after watching in the mirror and they did a beautiful piece with a banner saying Murphy's Law. Seemed fitting. The guy loved the fact that his one messed up tattoo was the Murphy's Law one. Edit: some people have pointed out the lack of apostrophe in the spelling. This took place in a small Swedish town and 100% there was no apostrophe. Swedes are generally decent at English, but apostrophe to indicate ownership is probably the part we suck most at.
My ex did a large scarification on the client's abdomen. The client had brought in a piece of paper with the stylized word, perseverance. I was invited in midway to see the progress and had to tap my ex on the shoulder for a spelling lesson.
A few years ago I was tattooing a client who had apparently lost a bet. His buddies were allowed to tattoo something behind his shoulder as long as it wasn't racist or offensive. Turns out the guy drew up a design of a leprechaun throwing up on a book. Sure, why not? Everyone was sober and they were paying pounds up front. Easy work. The drawing was really simple and the shading was easier than I thought it'd be. Turns out everyone liked it. Except the guy with the tattoo of a leprechaun throwing up on a book. He picked at the scab, trying to get rid of it, completely took it from bad to worse. Comes in about 10 days later, demanding a refund of money he didn't pay or the studio, not me, cover it up. Nope, management said you signed for it in your right mind and then damaged it yourself. Personally I was yelled at and told never tattoo anyone like that, it only works in television series or film. Did I make a mistake? Yes and no. The lesson here is don't get involved in others' drama when permanent body marking are involved.
I got a tat from an apprentice once and the process was rough. I was his 4th customer and he had a mentor guiding him. By guiding I mean roasting everything he was doing. It was a fairly simple Sailor Jerry pinup, maybe 3 colors. The guide made him use 6 colors. Like the skin color on it is skin-colored ink. It took 5 hours. The whole time the guide is saying stuff like, "Why the F face with symbols on mouth CK, did you pick that color next?" Or, "No, no, no. Don't do that, you'll F face with symbols on mouth CK up his arm forever." It was constant and brutal. The artist was a friend and I was really feeling for him but also myself cause my arm felt like ground hamburger by the end. 10-ish years later and it still looks awesome. He did a great job and went on to be a respected tattoo artist in the area. All's well that ends well, but I was nervous AF while it healed to see what it would look like.
I was working at a place when a guy came in for a full back piece of 3 different cars. It took like 4 visits to finish and each visit he'd look at it and say it looks awesome and then he would take off. On the last visit, they call me in to look at it to show me how awesome it turned out. Well, all the steering wheels were on the wrong side and the reason no one caught it was because the dude was looking in a mirror to check his progress so they looked correct. I'm pretty sure the guy was super chill about it when they offered a bunch of free work and they fixed it in another session.
So I didn't mess up, but I had a client scare me. I was tattooing his sister's name on him, she passed away. Gabriella, with 1 L in it. Past the point of no return he asks me, "There's 2 L's, right?" I think I had a heart attack, and he started laughing. He thought it was hilarious. I died a little and pretended to laugh.
Worst was when I just started out tattooing. A few months in I'm tattooing her old co-worker's wife and she's getting some Roman numerals and before starting I ask her to triple check the numbers and she's like, "Yup, all good, let's do it." 1 hour after being done I receive a text from my old co-worker that one of the letters are wrong. That was a great week to be alive dealing with that anxiety.
I tattooed Philippines 4:13 instead of Philippians chapter 4 verse 13 on a girl one time. Fortunately I was able fix it though.
I watched my boss turn a stylized Tierney, mistress's name, into Diane, wife's name, once. I'd never believe it if I didn't see it with my eyes.
Moral of the thread here is double check any words or numbers.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.